There have been three important developments surrounding Tesla's full self-driving, but more precisely, Tesla's competitors in FSD are taking action and making comments. First, Ford CEO Jim Farley was interviewed recently, and he claimed Ford is just 2 years away from offering technology that will allow drivers to take their eyes from the road and their hands off the wheel. Given they likely do not have their own technology, might this be a hint that they'll be partnering with Tesla? Second, after testing out both Waymo and Tesla FSD here in the US, Xiaopeng CEO has announced he will soon release a self-driving report where they compare the three autonomy technologies. And third, it looks like the CEO of Uber has just sold more of his shares in Uber, now having dumped a total of 50% of his shares over the last 3 months. I've got Jeff Lutz here joining with us. Jeff is an ex-CVP of Supply Chain and Chief Quality Officer at some of the Fortune 100s. He's now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Hey, great to be with you, Herbert.
So three developments all around Tesla FSD, or more precisely, their competitors talking about it. This one is from Ford. He's saying that drivers will be able to take their eyes off the road in 2 years. And he sees cars becoming rolling offices with new feature. Okay, that's pretty bullish that in 2 years, he's going to be able to get to autonomy. He says the vehicle will take over while drivers can look away. That's him. I'll show his interview shortly. But specifically what he's saying is we're getting really close. In a interview with Bloomberg TV, we can do it now pretty regularly with a prototype, but doing it in a cost-effective way is just the progress we're going to need to make. So he says we can actually do it already, but we just don't have it cost-effective. Can make the progress quickly enough to be offering the feature in 2026, which could make it the first mass market car brand to offer what auto engineers call level 3 autonomy. So this could just be another one of those like Mercedes where they call it like that, but actually it's not truly, like lots of issues. That's where the car takes over the driving under certain conditions. All right. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, this doesn't sound like a scalable solution. And again, Mercedes is claiming they have a level 3 solution, but you have to be under a certain speed on certain roads under certain conditions. And it's truly a limiting experience. And, there's a debate that's out there that, what do these features ultimately need to be? Does it need to be, drop a pin and press a button and let the car drive anywhere in the world? That's what Tesla's working on, a scalable solution for that. Or does it, just need to be something that works in certain places at certain times? Or does it need to be this gigantic computer with cooling and, dozens of sensors and very costly robo-taxis that you could then capitalize over time and by giving out rides? And those are on pre-map streets. Those are also difficult to scale, and they're teleoperated. So you have different camps that are operating under different objectives. And the one that appears to be scalable, both from a volume perspective, number of vehicles, number of rides, and it is the one that Tesla is working on. And the other ones seem to be somewhat limited. And it's almost like, with Tesla's 8.8 event, literally just weeks away now, was it 6 weeks away? You may see a ramp up here in conversation of like, this is what we have and this is what we're doing. It's going to be available in a couple of years. Like, maybe trying to, steal some of the thunder. The other thing is, what a lot of these companies do, and I've been a party, to agreements like this in the past, is they have their own effort under development. They've got, a team working on it, and they're funding the team and they're motivating the team. But at the same time, they're also looking at, a parallel solution. And, they could be looking at Tesla's solution. It's purely speculative at this point. Obviously, some other tier 1 auto OEM is looking at it seriously because Tesla announced that on the earnings call. Elon announced that. So, and we know others are looking at it. We know everybody's basically, in my opinion, everybody that makes a vehicle is looking at the Tesla solution. So that's where we're at. I think different objectives, different teams, different people. And in the end, this is, we're weeks away from the 8.8 event, and, these companies have to come out and say something about what they're doing, because it could be quite embarrassing for them to ultimately have nothing or no plan or no roadmap.
Yeah. If you take a look at what's actually happening, right? They have a Blues cruise currently under investigation by U.S. safety regulators after being involved in fatal crashes. Then you've got they shut down their autonomous affiliate Argo AI because they said it was achieving full self-driving was too far off. So they've changed their tune quite quickly here, don't you? Yeah, you said already it's possible. Of course, they're talking to Tesla, but it almost has to be that they're talking to Tesla because if it's in 2 years, that's a little bit too fast. Now, does 2 years line up with what you think? Let's say they started the conversation with Tesla, and then would it take them 2 years to install the
it's
technology?
quite possible.
If it was Tesla,
yeah, it's quite possible. You would have to do very detailed development about the styling of the vehicle, where the cameras go, call it the packaging it's called, and that would take some period of time, and then obviously the software integration. But you just have to look at like what's happening. You just have to look, like, don't let your eyes or ears fool you. Who is buying up all the H100 and B200 compute out there from NVIDIA? Who's creating the largest GPU clusters? Look at what's happening on the side of the building at Austin. Look at what's being opened in Buffalo. Look what XAI is doing. Different. It's not autonomy per se, but look what they're doing in Tennessee, the biggest GPU cluster in history that we know of. I don't hear those announcements from Ford or GM. So by them not being, by the way this kind of works, in order to get in line, for Blackwell and to be on that train for Rubin that comes after that, you have to be buying H100s now, or otherwise you're going to be deprioritized on that list. So that's the way this works. And Tesla has been working with NVIDIA for a very long time. And Tesla is obviously ramping up their own solution that they're trying to work with in the background. And I've done a little bit more digging on this, and it looks like, and I think this has to play out over some period of time, but it looks like Tesla may, and I've misspoke before because I didn't know if they were actually going to be building hardware 4 and AI 5 computers in Texas. They still may be doing that, building the full computer out. But it looks like they may be taking those already built up computers and then augmenting that GPU cluster with hardware 4, hardware 5, to use that as part of the training on the training side as well, which again, you would have more and more Tesla hardware on that side. So just getting back to this Ford conversation, if you just look at how many steps ahead is Tesla's at, they started their own perception or inference side development in 2015, 2016, and they were shipping that in 2019. They've been shipping that for 5 years, and they have 7 million vehicles on the road. I mean, how many vehicles are on the road with Blue Cruise? And he said they have a prototype that they're working with in the lab. All this stuff needs to scale over volume, both volume of vehicles and then volume of incidences that you encounter. And that's what Tesla's been able to gather. They have the data lead, they have the volume lead, and now they're building out the infrastructure side of it to continue to grow that lead. And you just don't hear or see these announcements. So just don't let your eyes fool you. A lot of these companies have said, I wish the best for all of them. I think we all do. But they've said a number of things over the past couple of years regarding their EV plans, their capacity, and what they've been said, versus what they're able to do are two different things. This autonomy thing is many times more difficult than producing an EV. Producing an EV profitably is extremely difficult to do. And then producing this scalable autonomy solution is that much more difficult. So just look at the facts and data, and you'll see pretty quickly.
I mean, like you said, they have continuously making statements that are, proven to be wrong, or maybe lies earlier. But if this is true, if he's trying to say that this is true, there's no option except that he had to partner with Tesla. Simple as that. Like you said, there's just nothing. There's no way. It's unlikely that they will have the solution, without.
Yeah, and these things are difficult to do, Herbert. We know it, right? We've seen Tesla promise dates, and dates come and go. And I've experienced, like, when something's never been done before in the world ever, it's hard to
Right.
actually put a detailed line by line schedule. So I respect that, and Tesla struggled with that too. But you see the pieces of the Tesla side coming into place.
Right.
You see the capital investment. You see the AI resources. You see the vehicle, the 7 million vehicles on the road, the data lead, the billions of miles. Like you see all the components building up, and you don't see it on the other side. You just see a promise and a headline. So
Yeah.
I
That's a
think
good
that's
point.
the call out.
Let's watch him talking in his interview. Let's watch this.
Where are you on the road back? How far along that road are you?
Our backs are off the stovepipes. We're well into the messy middle of the most transformational time other than the Model T. You know, we've never gone through this electrification transition for low CO2 drivetrains. We've never had a digital product before. We never could give people time back like we will with level 3 autonomy. We're investing in all that enabling technology. We're very profitable with our Pro business and our combustion business. We have the iconic vehicles like Bronco and Mustang that are doing, and F-150 that are doing so well. But we still have a lot of execution to do. I'd say, you know, we're just a few years away from another vibrant period for the company. And as leaders, we see it before everyone else sees it. And so it's exciting for us, but we feel a tremendous amount of responsibility for your parents, for you, for my grandparents.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on what you just heard from?
Yeah, I mean, very likable person, but and we kind of soft on the facts and the plan, and it's hard to do that right in a CEO interview. But again, it goes back to, are the components being put in place? If there's multi-billion-dollar purchases of data centers and work happening there, I think at scale, I think we would be hearing about it. We're not. So hopefully these are licensing partners for Tesla, and hopefully the way this kind of works through is Tesla gets FSD from supervised to unsupervised at some point this year, maybe early in the next year. And while they're doing that, and then they have the robotaxi pilot, and they're going to show us that on 8/8. And while they're doing this, and they get it to some level of greater stability, they can start working with a partner on the licensing side, and I think that would be a great. It would show you that the FSD business and the robotaxi business scale outside of the boundaries of Tesla, and I think that would be a great thing to see. And meanwhile, I think some of these other companies are realizing the limits of these solutions. One final thing, it's the other thing that's very difficult to do with these things is to do it and get the power. So you have to get the volume scale, you have to get the economic scale. But from a performance perspective, the Elon talks about this over and over again. They have less than 100 watts. You're running this computer in the vehicle. A lot of people that are going to be making attempts to do this are going to be using very power hungry systems, and it's one thing to get to that place in time where you get to some level of driverless performance. It's another thing of like, how does this thing perform? How efficient is it? And what does that do to the lifetime cost model of it? So just anyway, there's just so much behind this, and again, I'd have to think that licensing would be their path, or they're going to launch an extremely limited level 3 solution to kind of make a headline like Mercedes, but then there's going to be no real volume behind the vehicle and no consumer, kind of pickup as a result.
Yeah. So as we know, 8/8 is coming up really quickly. And so a lot of these CEOs are stepping up. It could very well be that Ford, Jim Farley, just up here trying to preempt it, saying, hey, we've got something two years from now to make sure we're not out of the conversation. Here is Xiaopeng, CEO. He's been on the news recently because he's actually been visiting the United States, and he says he's been testing out Tesla's FSD, and he's been testing out Waymo, and he said now that he's going to soon release a experience report. He wants to compare his version of full self-driving in China with the US's Tesla and Waymo here in experience here. And he also said this, that, he said, I had the opportunity to evaluate Tesla's version 12.3.6. He did not have a chance to do the 12.4 4 and the latest version Waymo. And then I don't know if this is lost in translation, but Tesla Chan does a great job of always reporting everything, any news that he sees from China. China actually now appears to be actively encouraging openness and new quality productivity. I don't know what that means, except that.
Yeah, I think what it means is it's okay to go outside of your country and to work with others, especially if it's Tesla. I believe. I think Tesla and the Chinese government have a very strong relationship. Are there issues? I'm sure there's issues, but I think it's what I think he's saying is it's okay, and he can save face by evaluating the solution from a Tesla or from a Google or Waymo in the situation, and that's okay because these are highly respected companies. So I think that's ultimately what they're saying. It's good to like sanity check like what you're doing in China versus how it's working abroad. And I do think that there may be a license partner that would emerge. I think Tesla is going to have license partners in every major region eventually, but all it takes is one to get the process started.
So remember when Ford CEO went and took his car and drove across the United States, and then he realized that he had issues with charging. That's why he said that we have to partner with Tesla. In the same way, these CEOs, not only Xiaopeng, but Huawei did the same thing, testing out Tesla's FSD. Maybe that's their way to say, hey, I'm ready to partner. Maybe not, right? We'll see what happens here. Another big development that happened was this Uber CEO. The Uber CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, sold 1 million shares last week. Okay. So that, CEOs and executives often sells shares of that they own. But the problem is that he's been selling quite a bit. He's been like selling, just a month ago, he sold 30% of his holdings. So this was the question that Lord Pritifaco, Justin, he was following this, right? Large insider sale. This is a month ago. CEO of Uber sold $33 million worth in shares on Friday. Now, this is now 50% of his shares before Tesla's 8.8. I mean, it's obviously, you can't read too much into insider sales, but this is a significant amount that he's selling. So this isn't just a small bit. What's your interpretation? Can you read into this?
I mean, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to look at the percent of their total holdings and when did they do it? Was it part of a pre-planned sale or not? These are the kind of things, I don't know if we know the answer to that, if was it pre-planned or not, but it is a large percentage of his holdings. So, I mean, there could be a message in there. I see a lot of messaging on X about, NVIDIA insider selling. If you see Jensen Huang selling $30 million of NVIDIA when he owns $80 or $90 billion, I think you can come to some logical conclusions on that he needed some pocket change or, some change to get lost in the couch. This is a much bigger sale. And I think there is something, fairly significant on the horizon. And the question is Uber eventually a partner of Tesla? They are a partner of Tesla today. Uber drivers love Teslas. There are existing deals and discounts, or not. There's a program between the companies, and there was a program between, including Hertz. So there could be a deal on the horizon, there as well. But what Tesla is doing with ride hailing will cut directly into these companies, but maybe there's a way for them to work together. And he is a good CEO. Dara Khosrowshahi is, I would say, one of the higher quality CEOs out there. But I would say this definitely does raise eyebrows. Selling half of your stake like this, that's a very large percentage.
All right, Jeff. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the comments that some of the institutional analysts are saying. So, for one example, is Gary Black. He continues to say that, yes, Tesla's ahead. Yes, Tesla will be the first. But just like every software, other companies will come out and they'll be able to capture to that. You kind of answered that already at the beginning of this, but just very quickly, what's your thought when you hear
Yeah,
Gary say something like that.
Yeah, you have to look at the complexity before you ask and answer that, or you answer that question. And the complexity of full autonomy is not on the scale of complexity of some of the other things like seat belts and other active restraints and things that were kind of just, developed at some place in auto and then just copied around. Um, there's a level of complexity here that's well above. This is one of the hardest engineering problems, out there. And if you look at what has to happen on the data center side, what has to happen on the inference side in the vehicle, what has to happen from a hardware design perspective for that silicon, the software design perspective, that's all Tesla software. This is this is super complex. And it's not like you just go and say, hey, NVIDIA, get me some GPUs. I want to do some training. Hey, NVIDIA, get me an inference computer I can put in the car. This is, multiple years worth of work. And it's not like NVIDIA has a solution that's all packaged up in a set of files that they just send over to these companies. These companies have to do real work. They have to have the AI talent. So you've got a talent bottleneck, you've got a data and compute bottleneck, and you have a volume, like a volume of vehicle bottleneck, where again Tesla is going to be up to 7 million vehicles here soon on the road gathering data and driving miles, and the other companies don't have that scale. So when you have those types of things, there's physics involved there, and there's work that has to be done. You can't just literally cut and paste it over unless, again, a licensing agreement is involved. So Tesla has built, I would say, a very sturdy, durable lead, and it's only grown, I would say. If we just look at like a year or two ago and what they had in compute power, what they had in resources, and what they had in miles versus what they have today, you see that kind of hockey stick in all three of those areas. And you don't see the other groups doing that same hockey stick, maybe at a lower magnitude. So I think the lead has only grown in the last couple of years.
Yeah. I don't know why some people just don't believe that. They don't believe that. They'll go, well, last 5 years, Tesla can't claim that they were doing it, but they're not doing it. Well, that's because they need to build the data. They need to build the miles. They need to build all this to get it. And yet then they'll say, but then once Tesla releases this 2 years later, everyone else will copy. What? And then, so that's the other institutional analyst. I just did a show on this, is Tom Narayan of RBC Capital. Very big bull for Tesla. He goes the other way. He actually is a very bullish on Tesla, believes robotaxi will be solved. And he puts it in part of his, one of the few that actually puts it in part of his forecast. The funny thing is he thinks it'll be solved in 2040. So tell me what you think about that. It's like on the other side of it.
Yeah, there's going to be levels of performance and acceptability that are just going to improve over time. I think that's why Elon refers to how much better than a human driver, because there's no one specific endpoint to this problem. That's why they're continuing to acquire more compute, continuing to do more training. And what's going to happen is you're just going to surpass a level of human capability that's regularly accepted. And then it's just going to keep going, and it's going to continue improving until, again, I like the elevator analogy Elon uses. Like, right now, when you get into elevators today, they work, very, very reliably. You don't stop in the middle of a floor. People aren't getting chopped in half. Things like those things just don't happen because those problems have been solved over a number of years. Now, this is nowhere near the complexity. It's much more complex than an elevator, but it's a decent analogy of, what used to be kind of manually operated versus full autonomous now.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate this. Please follow Jeff on X at the Jeff Lutz. Brilliant. Appreciate you always giving your advice. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.